the left coast, my good friend, the head CEO of No Limit Mindset LLC Management, Shane Shapiro. Shane, what's happening?
Mark, first, before we get started, I just want to thank you. You're one of the few people that when I got into boxing gave me an opportunity, gave me a chance. And I just want to say I appreciate you. It's an honor to be on the show with you. Everything's good. I'm in Los Angeles in good weather, got my health, boxing's back, sports are coming back. So, I'm excited. I'm excited to be here talking with you.
I appreciate that.
Boxing's back.
So what's going on? You're in L.A. right now. How's everything going out there?
Everything's good. I've been taking advantage of this time to better myself. Most people don't know that I still, besides boxing, I got a lot of other things that I do. I trade stocks full time, so I'm up every morning trading stocks. I'm still in school, getting my business degree. So I've been at Drexel University near you. So I've been taking my time to get back into school and finish my degree, which I got 7 classes left, and then just getting prepared for when boxing does come back. That I'm ready to go.
So this downtime, this downtime hasn't. You really haven't been bored like the rest of us have been.
No, I mean, listen, I'm someone that has dealt with mental health my whole life, being diagnosed obviously with cancer at age 17, which we'll get into. That affects me. So not being able to work out like I'm used to has definitely it's been a challenge for me. So it doesn't, as good as it looks from the outside, it's definitely been hard. It's been an adjustment. With someone with underlying health conditions, it's something that's always on my mind now more than ever. So, everyone's got their own struggles, and I'm just dealing with it day to day.
Interesting. So let's date back the beginning. As a young kid, I know you were a very enthusiastic, sports fan. I know, and you played baseball, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, baseball was my first love. My whole childhood was dedicated to baseball. I grew up with parents who both played sports. My mom was a beach volleyball player, and my dad played baseball and was a big LA sports fan. So that was instilled with me at a young age. So I played baseball my entire life. Going into high school, my senior year, I had some opportunities to play college baseball. And that's pretty much all I thought. I thought that's what my life was going to be playing baseball somewhere. That didn't end up happening, but that was my first dream.
And then, as you just mentioned before, I guess you got sick. You said age 17. Said your junior year in high school.
No, my senior year of high school. I was felt like I was on top of the world. Was captain of the baseball team. Played varsity 3 years, and was getting ready to basically have one of the best years of my life. And it was Halloween morning, 2010, and I went to the doctor. I was getting ready to go to school, and my parents had told me, "Listen, you're not going to school today. We're going to the doctor." And I went to Cedar Sinai, which is one of the greatest hospitals in the entire world. I'm sure you know. And I was sitting in the chief of medicine, his office, and he was doing a bunch of tests on me on my thyroid gland, which I knew nothing about. And he said to me, "Son, do you know why you're here today?" And I was like, "No, doctor, I have no idea." And he said, "You're being diagnosed with thyroid cancer." And I was in complete shock, had no idea what that meant. My mom's a 2-time cancer survivor. My grandfather's a Holocaust survivor. So my immediate thoughts were not about me, but just about them. And so that kind of just, the next 2 or 3 months was kind of a blur. I had a 5.5-hour surgery to remove my thyroid. Thyroid cancer is a really rare disease in teenagers. It's 1 in 3 million. So, you know, I spent a lot of time, luckily in the beginning, the first couple of years, very naive, not knowing much about what I went through. And it's only until the last 5 or 6 years that I start to realize how serious cancer is, and just like facing your mortality so young compels you to want to do more with your life at a young age. So I try to take cancer and turn it into something good.
Now, how long did you battle that, you know, the first time around?
So I got diagnosed within 3 or 4 weeks. I was seeing every single surgeon in LA. Luckily, my family's really well connected to all the top doctors here. So I was going to every doctor just to confirm my diagnosis and make sure that I was in the best possible hands. So I went ahead and had the 5.5-hour procedure, spent a couple days in the hospital, and then was back home recovering for, I want to say, 3 or 4 weeks. Didn't try to tell too many people about it. Wasn't looking for sympathy or any pity. I just wanted to kind of come back in time for my senior year of baseball and kind of like do my thing. And because I knew that my time in baseball was going to be limited, so I just wanted to like enjoy the rest of my high school experience.
Gotcha. So after high school, where did your life take you?
So after high school, you know, all those opportunities to play in college went away. So I was kind of unsure of where I was headed in my life. I ended up getting into the restaurant industry. I managed a restaurant chain called Burger Lounge. I opened 3 restaurants for them for 2.5 years. So I was managing restaurants.
Let me guess. They sold hamburgers.
Yeah.
Oh.
Organic grass-fed beef. They're still around. They're pretty good. That meanwhile, you know, my mom taught me how to trade stocks. So, you know, she always wanted me to be diverse. And at a young age, I picked things up really quickly. And, you know, I've never really been a school person. That's why I'm still finishing my degree. But I was learning how to trade stocks. I was in the management industry. And then I got an opportunity one day to meet a young fighter from Germany named Cham Cham, and kind of getting involved with his career, and didn't really know at all what I was getting myself into, and slowly gotten into the sport of boxing.
Welcome to boxing.
Yeah, so I slowly got into boxing, and as I said, you know, my grandfather's a Holocaust survivor. You know, both my grandparents. So, you know, that was like the last thing they wanted me to do. And, you know, it was like everything that my family wanted me to do, get into, was the opposite.
So, so you meet Killich, and I mean, I would imagine it's a friendship at first before you say, you know what, maybe I'll manage this kid. I mean, take us through that dynamic.
Yeah, so we'd never met each other. We had communicated through like Facebook and WhatsApp, and he was just like an up and coming amateur fighter over in Germany. And he was like, I'm looking to turn pro in America. And I was like, great, you know, like I'll bring you over here, and you know, you sign with me, I'll turn you pro, and we'll see where this goes. And
sounds like the boxing version of 90 Day Fiance.
Yeah, it was super naive, and we talked for a full year. I flew him here. He moved in with me the next day. In my apartment, we had a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartment, and I took him to Freddie Roach's gym one day, and the rest kind of became history. I would just spend a lot of time in gyms, learning from a lot of people, being in camps. You know, being in Los Angeles, it works a lot to my advantage. You know, I've been in camps with some of the best fighters in history: Miguel Cotto, Sugar Shane Mosley. You know, we've been blessed to be in camps with Jermell Charlo, Errol Spence Jr. There's a lot more that I'm not thinking of, and I'm not trying to name drop, but you know, I was in the gym with Freddie Roach. I've been around Buddy McGirt for years. So in a short amount of time, I was able to just soak up a lot of experience and just learn and ask questions and I became that kid that was always in the gym, and other fighters just saw that I was always with Cham. I was everywhere with him. I was taking him to sparring. I was working his corner. There was a couple fights where I had to work the corner and be the trainer. So I just always made sure that I was prepared, and I did my homework. I was always watching fights. You know, growing up, I watched fights with my dad. I watched a lot of Oscar De La Hoya. I watched a lot of Trinidad. My first fight that really got me into boxing was De La Hoya and Mayweather, and just seeing Floyd be able to talk the way he talked. I just thought this was so cool that, you know, this was a fighter expressing himself and being this bad guy, and then you got the good guy. I thought this was so cool, and I never thought I would get into the sport. And then being with Cham, and, you know, led me to other opportunities, you know, with other fighters in the last few years.
Well, you actually, it was a unique thing, and I know you made a documentary about, you know, your, you know, for lack of a better term, you know, relationship with Cham. Cham actually lived with you for a number of years.
Yeah, so that's a big thing, because most people don't know. I come from grandparents of Holocaust survivors. Not my ancestors, not my great-grandparents, not my great-great-parents. My grandparents are Holocaust survivors. My grandfather's 94, still alive. He was in Auschwitz. His mom and dad and 7 brothers and sisters were all murdered just for being Jewish. You know, I grew up with that instilled in me. Anti-Semitism is not okay. Obviously, we'll get into what's going on in today's world. But, you know, I grew up raised by Holocaust survivors. Cham is a Muslim. He lived with me for 5 years. You know, I'm Jewish, he's Muslim. I represent, you know, all different cultures and races. And with me, with Cham, you know, it was a very interesting experience, you know, and being open-minded to seeing other points of views and religion. And I think that's one thing that really drew me to boxing, that other sports, you know, you don't really get that. And in boxing, you really get to see people for who they are.
Gotcha. So, being around Cham and him living with you, I guess you almost got firsthand experience. I know that most managers, once they leave the gym or leave the fight, they don't see the fighter all day, all night. I guess you got to actually get the firsthand experience of what a fighter lifestyle really is.
Yeah. So I was with him since his pro debut. So that was literally with Freddie Roach on a top-ranked card. My first 4 fights were top rank. So I got the direct experience. You know, I met Brad Goodman my first fight, Bruce Trampler. All of this, looking back, was tremendous, invaluable experience at age 19 that I'm looking back like, wow, this is tremendous. Yeah, I was there at the weigh-ins, watching him make weight, watching him cut weight, what a bout agreement looked like, what it's like to sell tickets on a club show, you know, what it's like to get per diems. You know, I got to learn a lot about the business right away, and also get to see the fighter's point of view of what they go through on a daily basis, of not just, okay, I'm going to see what sparring looks like. No, okay, after sparring, I'm taking him to strength and conditioning. I'm getting him his new nutrition. I'm making sure he's got his proteins and supplements. I'm making sure his chunks are done. I'm making sure that his family and whoever's coming has tickets. So it was a lot of experience and a lot of stuff that I learned early on.
And I know you have a very close relationship with a good friend of mine. In fact, the guy responsible for introducing you to me, who's now one of the top managers out there, so far has had a great start to 2020. Mike Barea. So talk about, you know, the experience of learning from him. Mike's been around the game, 20, 25 years.
Yeah, so it gives me goosebumps. But Mike's like a second father to me. We met about 4.5 years ago. I was working with Mike Lee a little bit, meeting him out here in LA, and I was just helping him with some day-to-day stuff. And he gave me an opportunity to work with him and come to a couple fights. So I was in Chicago on another really good local promoter, Bobby Hits.
Had him on the show. We love Bobby.
Yeah, Bobby does a great job. And I met Mike Barea at one of Mike Lee's fights, and he saw something in me that was like kind of a reminder of himself. And Mike got into the game at a young age. So he saw me and he saw like my passion. And, you know, the first thing he said to me was, you know, you want to know how to make $1 million in boxing? And I'm like, how?
Start with $2 million.
start with 2 million. So I was just like, oh man, like, so we really hit it off, and, he gave me his number, and he's like, reach out to me. And, a lot of people had told me that, like, hey, reach out to me, I'll help you out. And I was like, oh, this guy, he was managing, he had Charles Martin, who was heavyweight champion of the world. He had a bunch of top
brought
guys.
Jamil McCline about 4 or 5 title opportunities.
Brian Mike's been around. So he worked with Cedric. He basically helped Michael King build his entire promotional company. So right when after the fight, I got back to LA, and Mike reached out to me, and we really built this relationship that goes beyond boxing. I talked to him about everything going on in my life. He was the first thing he said to me was, stay in school, get your education. He's someone I have a lot of respect for, a lot of admiration for. I respect what he does in boxing, what he does for his fighters. He's taught me so much. There is not enough that I could say about Mike or what I could do for what he's taught me. And he's been there for me during some of the hardest times in the sport, where I really wasn't sure if I wanted to keep going, and because boxing's tough. And he's introduced me to some really good people, and he's just an unbelievable manager and an unbelievable mentor.
So you're guiding Kilich. You sign him with Greg Cohen Promotions, and he keeps winning. You're getting him undefeated. And I mean, what's it like? You're a young guy. How old are you now? 25?
I just turned 27.
27. Yeah. See, time flies when you're having fun. Anyway, so you just turned 27. You're with Kilich, and you and with Greg, you guys are getting. He's winning fights. And then what's it like for?
Just a quick disclaimer. He's actually we are free agents right now.
Okay, we're gonna get there. I'm just taking everyone through the story though.
Yeah.
You're winning fights. You're winning fights, and then you get him to a record where you actually, you're a young guy. You get him on Showbox. You get him on national television. What's that feeling like when a deal like that's consummated?
It was unbelievable. First, we fought on CBS, so we had a little bit of exposure there.
But Showbox is one of the one of the preeminent shows out there.
Then a big shout out, thank you to Gordon Hall. Gave us an opportunity to fight on Showbox. This Turkish kid that no one really heard of, and we were just looking for an opportunity, and to fight on Showbox was the make or break. To be able to show everyone hey, this kid's the real deal. I've been telling you, and now you get to see it. So. We fought on Showbox, and the day before, Buddy McGirt had to work someone else's corner. So I ended up having to work the corner as the chief second. So it ended up working to my advantage, where I got a ton of exposure to show that I'm not just a manager, but someone that actually is around the game. Knows a little bit about the sport, and so I got to get Cham we got that fight. It was a war against DeAndre Ware.
Yep.
He was against, they won a Devin Haney card. So he won the fight. We got a lot of traction. We bounced into the top 5 in the world ratings. And we had a lot of momentum, kind of going into 2020. And we kind of parlayed it into a co-main event on ESPN this past January.
So my advice to you, you're 1-0 as a trainer on national TV. If you retire now, you go down as the greatest trainer of all time. So my advice for you is to not work another corner.
No, I'm done. I'd rather wear the suit, Mark, and sit ringside and be out of the picture. I'd rather let those guys do the job. So,
like you say, you parlay that fight into an ESPN co-feature in Atlantic City, taking on Steven Nelson, a highly touted prospect with Top Rank out of the Terrence Crawford camp in Omaha. So, obviously that fight didn't go your way. Talk about what happened that night.
Listen, I think it's a learning experience. Cham had a lot of tough. I don't want to make excuses because Steven Nelson was the better fighter. I don't ever believe in making excuses. At the end of the day, the winner finds a way to win. You don't have, we were supposed to fight December 14th. The fight got delayed. So camp went a little longer than we thought it would go. We were moving camps around. We were in Florida for 8 weeks in Vero Beach. Then we came back to LA, then we went back. it was a little bit different being the co-main event for Cham. It was, he had a lot of family coming from Turkey, which he never had before. And, he was off that night. The better man won. There's no excuse to be made. I think a true champion, you get to see, your next fight, what you're really made of. So, there's a lot of learning experiences, to learn from. You go 10 rounds the first time, co-feature, you're world rated. So I think we'll really see what Cham's made of in his next couple fights.
So that's where we're at with Chem Kilic. Another fighter you managed, lightweight Maison Menard. You weren't with him for many fights, but you were involved in probably his biggest exposure fight. Unfortunately, he got knocked out in the first round against current IBF lightweight champion Teofimo Lopez. So, but at least, I guess the silver lining for both him and you, you got to the stage. You got to the dance a little bit with Mason.
It wasn't just the loss to Teofimo. People forget that Devin Haney's a WBC champion also.
Yes.
So if you look at Mason's 3 real losses, Ray Beltran, WBO
champion, yep.
Devin Haney, WBC champion. Teofimo, IBF world champion. There's no shame in losing to the top guy, and Mason came off some injuries, had never been in a real training camp before I got him. I put him in with Derek James, the trainer of Errol Spence. I got him with a real trainer. He was coming off an injury. We fought on Showtime. We fought on ESPN. So it was a lot of national experience that both of us got. So, like I said, I live by the phrase of win or learn. I don't believe in losing. Like, if you can really learn from the loss, you gain something. So I gained a lot of exposure on a national level. People saw like, hey, Shane can get his fighters these experiences and these opportunities. What can he do for me? So, one of my fighters that I want to touch on, we haven't touched on, is Calvin Henderson.
We'll get them in a second.
Is the opportunities that I'm able to get my guys, being in Los Angeles, being a younger manager, being active in the sport, relating to these younger fighters is, I'm hungry. I still haven't made a world champion. So that fire is still within me. It's building every day. I still have this hunger. I'm going to be around for a while. So, I had a great time with Mason. I know he's still fighting and looking for opportunities, but he had some great fights.
Tell your fans to stop Facebook messaging in the middle of a freaking interview.
Yeah.
So you I don't want to say you got lucky. When I use the term "got lucky," I mean like you it was a good experience signing Chem. Pretty much sight unseen. You mentioned Calvin Henderson. That's another almost same situation. Although he was in Texas, a guy that you really didn't know personally reached out to you, and you looks like you're on the same, almost the same road as Kilic. You're getting him some good wins. He's undefeated. Had the draw with Plana, but again, that fight with Plana now looks good because Plana just beat Kevin Newman. So, it looks like you have another 168-pound potential contender in Calvin Henderson.
Yeah, so Calvin had since the pro debut, was highly regarded out of the amateurs, was supposed to go to the Olympics, lost in the trials because of a headbutt, like he couldn't continue. So, he was 25 or 26 years old, just graduated college, wanted to turn pro, and I cold called him, was like, hey, listen, I'm this manager in LA, I'd love to work with you. So he gave me an opportunity, which again, I'm so blessed and thankful for him, giving me this chance at 21 years old, I think I was when we signed, and trusted me with his career. We built up the first 8 or 9 fights locally in Arkansas. And then, thanks to you, the great Marshall Kaufman at King's Promotion.
Who are you talking about?
Gave Philly the fight of the year, against Brandon Robinson, and kind of put Calvin on the map and made people kind of respect him. And we gained a whole fan base in Philly. And then, he ended up with a torn retina, detached retina, and 2 cataracts, kind of after the fight against B-Rob. And then the Akins fight, and then the Piana fight. That was the worst anyone's ever seen Calvin. And, I have to believe that when he tells me, Shane, I had blurry eyes, I'm going to take him for his word. So as soon as Calvin's back, Piana is a fight we're going to have to rectify and get that situated. But, Calvin's someone that, is a fight or two away from the top 15 rankings, fan friendly, so marketable. He's a family man, loves his kids, educated, he was just on your show. So, he's easy to talk to. For me, Mark, I want to work with people that are, obviously, and any job they're stress-free, but guys that are quality people. And Calvin, Cham, Mason, Mike Lee, I mentioned. I also have another couple guys we'll talk about that I just signed recently.
Well, yeah. So this is what I was gonna say. You had a couple fighters who came in, came out. We don't have to touch on them. Fighters that you had for a fight or two, and for whatever reason, it's boxing. It doesn't work out. And now you signed a undefeated. Actually, I don't think he's made his pro debut. An Irish fighter. He's
no. So I signed three guys. I got a 4-0 cruiserweight, Gary Sweeney. He had made 4 fights under MTK, and then he had a back injury, and then was out for like a year and a half. So he was supposed to fight right before the pandemic. I had him out here with Buddy for 2 months. He was training. So he was on track to fight in March, and then he was going to fight on the Michael Conlan undercard in Belfast. So he was on track to get some looks on him. And then I signed, I don't know if I'm really supposed to say it yet, but Mirko Martin. He's a 14-0 flyweight out of Germany. He's ranked
number 4 in the WBO.
Yeah, so I just got that done right before the pandemic. I was waiting to announce it, but we're here. So, and then I got my my last signing was as a 10-0 118 120 pounder Dimas De Leon out of Mission, Texas, who I'm so excited about. He's like a southpaw Lomachenko style Mexican fighter. He's my first real Mexican fighter, and I'm super excited about him.
And if I'm not mistaken, they're all 3 free agents. Just in case any promoters are watching this.
Yeah,
so they're all free
besides
agents.
Calvin, who is exclusively with Kings. Yeah. All my guys are free agents, which has been a blessing. I've been able to kind of build them all up and work with different promoters. Work with Top Rank, Golden Boy, PVC. Eddie Hearn. I've gotten to work with kind of everyone at Kings and gotten experience on all sides of the table.
Terrific. So, during this whole time down, as the manager, I would imagine, you're putting in your, I won't say daily, but maybe weekly phone calls these guys to see how everyone's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main thing that is the key to success during this time that I realize is kind of constant communication, even if it's not good news, or it's bad news, but just telling guys hey, there is a plan in place. We're going to get through this. There's a lot of uncertainty going on right now. We're all in the same boat. We might not be in the same boat. We're all in the same water right now. Promoters are going through their own thing. Managers are going through their own thing. Fighters. We don't know what to expect right now. We don't know what purses are going to look like. We don't know what TV gates look like. We don't know when fans will be back. So. I think it's kind of as long as you can stay in constant communication and kind of have a little sense of what's going on, you're doing okay.
How do you feel? You said you've been around, maybe 5-6 years around the business. How's the business now before this happened in terms of just in general what your thoughts are compared to when you started?
I think it was in tremendous shape. I still think it's in tremendous shape. Last night, one of my good buddies, Adam Lopez, put on one of the fights of the year, and you got to see fighters 2-0, 3-0, that would never get opportunities to fight on TV that are now getting these opportunities. And I think the silver lining under this is, is stay ready, be ready. You don't know what's going to come, and I think that the sport's in good shape. You have streaming platforms. This interview right now is being streamed all over the place. 7 years ago, all the technology wasn't up to date where it is now. Now you're getting fighters who are able to build their own fan bases and kind of create their own worth. You're coming to the table now with promoters, and you're not just coming to them with, hey, I can fight. Now you're coming with, hey, I bring numbers to the table. I got sponsors on the table. It's giving fighters different outlets to make money and giving opportunities that might not be there. So I think that we're going to see a little uncertainty of what the business is going to be like. But if you weather the storm, you try not to get too high or too low. You stay kind of like right in the middle. We're going to get through this. There's going to be boxing again. We just got to figure out how we can all work together.
Gotcha. Do you have your eye? I know, and if obviously you don't want to mention, do you have your eye or close to maybe inking a couple more guys, or are you right now satisfied with the 5-6 guys that you're handling?
Yeah. So my model has always been to like not take on more than I can handle. I think I got 6 guys under contract right now. I'm always open to hearing what opportunities are out there. I always listen. That's one thing I always listen. It's one thing my grandfather instilled in me is to listen. You always have to take the offer or agree to it, but listen and be open-minded. I see myself growing, with the right opportunities, with the right people, but I'm at a point in my life, Mark, where I don't need extra headaches and I don't need stress.
No one
I had
does.
cancer once. I had cancer once. So I want to work with people that genuinely want to work with me. I like working with people that are fair and that respect me. I'm a younger manager, so a lot of people in this sport, unfortunately, want to put me in that category as, oh, he's a younger guy, so we want to talk down to him or this and that, and kind of what's going on in today's world. I believe that everyone deserves equal respect.
Have you I think we've talked about this before. I think you told me you've talked to some of the more high-profile managers, the Igis Klimases and the Dave McWaters, Peter Kahn, those kind of guys. Have you spoken with them? They give you tips, advice, and even though you're competitors, but I think I think you've told me you've had some positive conversations with some managers as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know how hard it is to be happy and be successful in life.
Mm-hmm.
Forget boxing, life. So I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. I mean, Lando, I hope Lando Rosa's watching. He's a classic example. I root for everyone at the end of the day. This is a business.
Mm-hmm.
We all got to make money at the end.
Yeah.
We got to feed, we got to pay bills, especially during these hard times. All these managers that you named, I have so much respect for. I'm cool with all of them. I see them, I go up to them, I shake all their hands. I think a lot of them, they have respect for me. They see my passion, they see the hunger. They don't look at me as a competitor, but more as an ally. Like, hey, how can I help you? And that's something that Mike instilled in me too.
Mm-hmm.
Help people. You're not going to be here forever, so you got to pass down the knowledge to people, and it doesn't hurt you to help someone, especially during these times. And I think that's the problem with society. Everyone looks at everyone like an enemy and envious, and as it's just perspective is way out of context. And all these people, even any young manager, people that reach out to me, I always give advice. Any way I can help someone, I'm there.
Gotcha. I mean, obviously you mentioned Mike, but who are some of the other managers that you think they're doing good jobs out there?
Oh, that's a great question. Rick Merigian, tremendous manager. I don't know if a lot of people know his name. He's on a household
Jose
name.
Ramirez and Gabriel
Jose
Flores.
Ramirez, Gabriel Flores. I mean, tremendous manager. You talk about building someone, not just not. This is the thing I think that is misconstrued about managers. So many managers, they call in, they check in, say, hey, how's sparring? Show up on fight night, wear their suit, collect a check. To me, a manager is someone that you're there 24/7. You're there when a guy needs help. You're there when a guy has a personal issue. I have a lot of respect for Mike Barea. Like I said, I got a lot of respect for David McWater. He's done a lot of great things for the sport, given a lot of opportunities to people. Rick Merigian, I said. I'd say those ones have reached out to me the most. A lot of other people that have just been really good to me, really good to me. Just giving me a lot of good advice, and just I've gained the most advice just by experience, being young.
And not so much the managerial aspect of. I know you mentioned his name before, but you've grown real close with Buddy McGirt. Can only manage the. I can only imagine. Say that 5 times fast. I can only imagine the wealth of knowledge that he's planted on you.
I spent 3 years at Wild Card with Freddie Roach every single day. So, I mean, this was when Freddie was at his peak. He was training Cotto, still training Manny. So I learned a lot from Freddie. Spent time with Derek James in Texas for a little bit when Errol was in camp on his way up to the IBF World Championship with Jamel. So I learned a lot from them. Like you said, I've spent the last 2 years or so with Buddy. And Buddy was 2-time world champion as a fighter. He is inducted into the Hall of Fame. He's taught me a lot about the business on the fighter side, the promoter side, the training side. He's introduced me to like some of the really, really old school guys in the sport that have exposed, kind of the things that are going on now based on what was going on before and kind of how it's still relevant. And, just taught me a lot about the sport.
Gotcha. So, when the curtain raises fully again, I mean, what do you expect to be doing? I mean, in a perfect world, where do you see your fighters at when we get this thing going again?
Before boxing, I like to see the world get to a better place.
Oh, yeah, for sure. In a lot of ways.
I want to touch on that because that's important to me. Like I mentioned, my grandparents, I come from Holocaust survivors. I was raised my whole life on anti-Semitism not being okay, racism not being okay. So I want to speak on what's going on right now, take a few minutes before I get back into boxing and just say that, I feel that there is change coming, but we really need to come together. We're all human beings at the end of the day. We're all going to die one day. We're all brothers and sisters. We all have the same human qualities. No one is better than anyone else. And I think that we all need to start being held accountable for our actions. There needs to be better leadership. We need to be willing to have uncomfortable conversations. And, before any of that happens, I think that a lot of people need to look in the mirror and say, what can I do better? What can I do more of? I grew up with mentality of, you look at people for who they are. And that's something that I've translated into boxing, like I mentioned. Muslim fighters, black fighters, Kazakhstan fighters. Look at people for who they are. Look at people for what they believe in. Don't look at someone for the color of their skin. Don't look at someone for how much money they have or what value they bring. That's what we're missing in today. And that's something that I think that will help us in boxing. It'll help us in sports. We're missing sports. That's what I like to see, better leadership, more voices, that's something that I would like to see all of us do a better job. But back to boxing. I like to see promotional companies working together. I like to see more competitive fights. I like to stop seeing fighters getting babied so much. I get there's a development period. There are tune-up fights. There are such things at all those things. But at the end of the day, this is prize fighting. This isn't about being Floyd Mayweather and being 50-0 because there's only one of those, Look at the UFC. You see guys with 14 losses getting great fights. It's not about the records all the time. It's about putting on good fights and leaving a legacy, And I think that's what I want to see in boxing. I want to see fighters not necessarily chase purses, even though I believe I'm going to fight to the end for all my fighters to get paid. I know promoters are going to come at us with trying to take less money and, negotiation takes two sides. But, guys are risking their lives. I want to see, I think the biggest silver lining out of the coronavirus, Mark, is you're seeing people taking health more serious. You're seeing now more health protocols. So I think that's a good thing. I think you're going to see now commissions put that as a priority. You're going to see promoters now putting that as a priority. So I like to see boxing come back and be stronger than it was. And I think it will. The fights that they put on, the Top Rank put on, I see, PBC is going to put on some shows. I've spoken to people at Golden Boy and Showtime. Boxing's coming back. The fighters, they're calling each other out. You're seeing Fury and Joshua are going to fight. There's going to be great fights. There's a demand. People want to see boxing. We miss it. We miss it so much.
Well, we definitely look forward to that. We definitely look forward to the growth and the development of all your fighters. Shane, anything you want to say to the fans out there in closing?
Just stay tuned. Love people, man. Be respectful to everyone. Be open-minded, and I'm accessible on my Facebook, Instagram, Shane Shapiro.
Well, you definitely been watching my interviews. You know what my last question is? Where do we find you on the social media?
Shane Shapiro, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Email me, shane@nlm.group. If it's about boxing, whether you're a cancer patient, whether you're going through anything, I'm really accessible. Try to be there for people, and whether you're dealing with mental health, whatever it is. I want to be a better person, so I'm here. I appreciate you having me.
Well, you're already like a top-notch person. If you're any better, I don't know if you.
No.
I don't know how much room is there for you to get better.
There's always room to be better. I know everyone's going through tough times right now, but be positive. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. We're gonna get through this, I promise. And reach out to me. Thank you for having me on the show, Mark. I haven't done any interviews. This is the only interview I've done during this time.
Wow.
So I appreciate you and everything you've done for me. You're the
I'm
best.
blushing.
You're a tremendous publicist. And thank you.
There you have it. No Limit Mindset LLC, Shane Shapiro. Thank you for almost 42 minutes of your time on a Friday. I mean, you could be doing anything on a Friday night in LA. Actually, nothing's even open.
I'm going to be watching Jim Cramer, your Philly guy, and watching what went on in the stock market today, and then finish my last class for school.
I'm about to go watch Dateline. That's my Friday night.
Well,
so,
listen.
Thanks, Shane. We will be back in touch, especially when your guys meet action. We'll get them and you back on. We'll talk all fights when that opportunity happens.
You got it anytime.